What's going on, guys? It's Chris Toro. So, Outlast 2 is coming in 2 days, if you pre-ordered it tomorrow at midnight. I can't tell you how excited I am to finally play Outlast 2. When it first came out, I was too busy with Resident Evil 7, and I didn't exactly have enough time to play both games. It's going to be interesting to see Outlast 2 on the Switch for a lot of reasons. First, I want to see how successful it's going to be, since the first one received criticism for its story narrative being a little too convoluted and vague, and also some particular frustrating segments where the game expects you to know where to go in a flustering situation, stating that there is a lot of trial and error. And I have no doubt that Red Barrels is not going to fix any of these issues, given it's just a port with less advanced graphics. But I guess there are some workarounds to the story narrative. I do hear that looking at all the notes that are available to you will help understand what's happening in the narrative, as well as reading the prequel comic that I'll link in the description for you. Apparently there is some kind of connection between the first and second game that can only be found in that prequel comic. It's also pretty interesting to read, so I highly recommend that if you're just jumping straight into Outlast 2, expecting it to correlate with Part 1 right off the bat. I remember when Outlast 2 came out, a lot of people were comparing Resident Evil 7 to it. I had a community of almost 2,000 Resident Evil fans, and even they were split on it. So suffice it to say, I picked sides. But now, after recently playing Outlast 1, I'm officially hooked. And it's clear that Outlast is the better son of the Resident Evil series. And the first was a whole lot scarier than any Resident Evil game I played recently, considering that indie developers made Outlast. This franchise in that right is that much more successful. Even though it might not matter that much, I'm very curious as to how Outlast 2 is going to look on the Switch. We've only gotten one trailer that allegedly shows in-game footage, but that trailer could have also had some cuts from the original Outlast 2 trailer. And it also seems like Red Barrels is reliant on the success for Outlast 2 on the Switch based on the hype from the first game, which is probably why Outlast 2 did so well in the first place. But I do hear that it is a solid sequel. No doubt if Outlast 1 and 2 came out at the same time on the Switch, Outlast 1 would have done a lot better. That could be the case, but it could also be some developing issues that they're having. Seeing as how Outlast 1 was a random resolution of 1080p, and in my last Outlast Switch video, I said 1080p because when I looked at the resolution on the website, I saw 1080p. And I do find that a little strange that they would make it 1008p, as if knowing that we would see 1080p, or they tried really hard just to get it up to 1008p, just so we can mistaken it for 1080p. And that's a bit dishonest in my opinion. So with Outlast 2 not coming out right away, it makes me think either they're having developing issues, or they're just trying to drive that Outlast 1 hype train to Outlast 2. And that is pretty dishonest. A lot of people say Outlast 2 is lackluster compared to Part 1. I've never played it, but I have seen people play it, and all guesses aside, I think the game looks a lot more advanced and like a natural evolution from Part 1. Since Part 1 was so linear, Part 2 seems a lot more open, especially with the cornfield areas. When I have doubts about a video game, I usually check a website called Trusted Reviews, and almost 100% of the time they've been accurate in all of their reviews. They usually don't hold back any punches, and even when something is widely hated, they look at all the good and they weigh it by that as well. And based on what they said about Outlast 2, giving it a 4 out of 5, I think as a new Outlast fan I'm going to enjoy this a lot. And my recommendation, if you did like the first Outlast and Whistleblower, when going into Outlast 2, it would be better to see that Outlast 2 is just giving you more of what Part 1 had, sometimes in a borderline ridiculous fashion, but Outlast 2 undeniably is a sequel. Check out that comic I linked down below and see if that helps. And also, considering that Outlast 2 doesn't have any kind of DLC attached to it, it is worth noting that the length of Outlast 2 is just as long as Outlast 1 and Whistleblower put together, and then some. So you are definitely getting your money's worth. And also, I'll be posting a review on Outlast 2 if you are still having any doubts about it, because Outlast 1 is $25, while Part 2 is $30. The only thing that made them different in quality on Steam, PS4, and Xbox One were the graphics. Outlast 2 is a lot more advanced than Part 1 in terms of graphics, but on the Switch, most likely they're going to look very similar. And if Red Barrels does make some kind of magic transition from the original Outlast 2 to the Switch and makes them look almost identical, then I'll let you know in the review. But until then, let me know what you think about Outlast 2 on the Switch. Are you looking forward to it? Do you have doubts? Let me know. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Later.